It's been a privilege to direct this project for the past couple of years. It really began in 2009 with the idea that 21st century skills needed to be first of all defined and described. And from there on we began to plan the project around phases as a serious, large-scale research and development project. We planned 5 phases. The first was conceptualizing, which we used to define the skills. The second was to identify particular skills to develop assessment strategies and teaching strategies around, and to formulate hypotheses of what it would look like as students developed increasing amounts of these particular skills. The third phase was a developmental phase where we outsourced the development of materials to particular companies around the world. Then we undertook pilot studies to see what the particular properties of those assessment tasks were, and finally the task will be to disseminate the findings of this project as widely as possible. There were several aspects of the slides to examine. The first of all is 21st century skills were defined as new ways of thinking, new ways of working, new ways of living in the world, and new tools for working. Within each of these 4 categories there were several subcategories of skills. So in 2010, at the beginning of that year, the project team met together with the executive board, and we elected to develop skills and assessment tasks for collaborative problem solving and learning through digital networks. When we analysed these particular skills, we were able to see that they assessed critical thinking, problem solving, communication, collaboration in collaborative problem solving. And in the learning through digital networks, we were able to focus on information literacy, ICT literacy, personal and social responsibility and competence. So in these 2 broad complex skills we were able to identify ways of assessing several of the 21st century skills. We also decided to measure and to assess these because there was no history of development in these fields at all. So we were working in greenfields type materials. The collaborative problem solving was defined as consisting of both social and cognitive skills, and within the social skills, can we move the slides on please? And again. Within the social skills we can talk about students developing participation skills, perspective taking skills, and identifying social regulation within the group. Within the cognitive skills, there was the idea of them identifying, analysing the task, and being able to build knowledge. In learning through digital networks, next slide, we were able to see that the expert panels who assembled to define these skills were able to identify the development of students as consumers in social networks, producers in social networks, the development of social and intellectual capital through networks. The University of California at Berkeley was commissioned to develop the ICT literacy tasks, and they developed 3 kinds of tasks. The first was called Webspiration, which focused on the development of graphic organizers, the development of listening and audio and video materials. The next task they developed was the developing skills in using collaborative notebooks and information foraging, and the third task was using chat room and spreadsheets. In collaborative problem solving, we took a somewhat parallel but divergent path, that's not particularly a contradiction, from the traditional work in problem solving. In 1973, Polio, really the godfather of problem solving assessment, defined 4 steps, and this was very influential in the way in which the PISA project in 2003 and 2012 developed their problem solving for individual students. ATC21S has taken a somewhat different path in that the difference between individual problem solving and collaborative problem solving is the need for overt, observable behaviours in the problem solving activity between the collaborating partners. So the ATC21S is more elaborate in its definition of problem solving and the hierarchy and the higher order skills involved. We can see that in this slide we're trying to lead students to the point where they formulate and test hypotheses about solutions and problem solving development. That leads us to the position where we can form an item bank, and we can present different kinds of problem solving tasks, some that are based on related to the school curriculum in maths and science, others that are related to reasoning, inductive and deductive reasoning and thinking skills, and others where the ambiguity and even the obscurity of the problem is not so clear. In the ICT literacy we have the three kinds of tasks as well. So our project now is to the point where we want to be able to develop these and present these tasks to schools, to students, to countries, so that they can access these easily, and we'll be able to capture the data so that we'll be able to calibrate the materials. There is a complex development process underway. It's being undertaken in 6 countries. There are 4 development agencies. We have the University of Berkeley on ICT. In the United Kingdom we have a company called Pixel Learning looking at serious games and their development of problem solving, collaborative problem solving tasks. We have another world-class Arena Limited in the UK developing problem solving tasks related to school curriculum. And at the University of Melbourne here we've been developing tasks that are more reasoning based, that specifically develop the notions of inductive and deductive reasoning so that it becomes less curriculum related and more transdiscipline in its nature. There's a multi-step process in this, as has been outlined already, and Professor Kerr will elaborate these much more. She has been coordinating the international research activity. So we have the cognitive laboratory, which we use to identify the sort of cognitive processing of students. Pilot studies means we work with individual schools and small class in order to identify the infrastructure. And then the trials that we'll be conducting in this month and next month and throughout early periods of this year, next year, that the purpose of that is to calibrate the tasks. What is not on the agenda is comparisons of countries at this stage. Over to you, Esther.